did George and Tammy fall into your lap? I know there's going to be a story of like it took years because, God forbid, it happens quickly in this industry. Can you tell us about how you ended up here?
Yeah, it was the first time at the Golden Globes, 2011, I think. And Josh Brolin approached me. And by the way, I was like, I'd never been at anything like the Golden Globes before. So even a movie star coming up to me, I was like, what is happening? And then he said, have you ever thought about playing Tammy Wynette? I think you should. I was like, all right, yes. And so it had many iterations. The script hadn't even been written yet by Abe. There were a lot of directors and but it definitely happened. It was more than a decade. It definitely happened the way it was supposed to be, because that was during that time I got to read all of her books and the books about her, and listen to all the music and talk to the family and really immerse myself into who she was. And also, we got to work on all the music when it's a 6-hour miniseries as opposed to a 2-hour film. And then I got to work with this guy right here too. So it definitely happened the way it should have been.
Michael. You two worked together on Take Shelter, and then you got the band back together for this. What was your greatest challenge in accepting this role and jumping into such difficult people to portray? I don't know how much of the series have you guys watched. Has anyone watched the entire run? Okay, good. All right. All right. All right. I'm trying not to do spoilers. So yes, can you talk about getting into George?
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't really know anything about George at all, and Jessica had been with it a lot longer than, she had been like 10 years, and so I kind of came in at the last minute, and I remember George when I was a kid. I used to see him on that show Hee Haw on TV. And he looked familiar, but I didn't really know his music all that much. But one of my best friends, Paul Sparks, because I was kind of waffling about it because I just was intimidated by it. And then my friend Paul, he said, they want you to play George. Oh, you got to play George Jones. And he started playing me all these George Jones songs on the radio. And I realized one by one, so many of my friends were massive George Jones fans, and I had no idea. It was like a secret or something. So, everybody said, "Oh, you should do it." And then, I just started by reading all the books I could get my hands on, and watching performances and interviews, and kind of the logical things you do when you're trying to find out about somebody. And then I had the great pleasure of being able to meet his daughter, Georgette, and his good friend, Peanut, and Peanut's wife, Charlene, who had spent so much time with him, and just listened to all the stories they had to tell. Yeah.
Thank you. Rachel, so obviously these two are singing live on set. It is a challenge to even just imagine like lip syncing, but then also to sing live on set and get it. And at music producing, I feel is like one of the undervalued jobs of on TV and film, because they think you just play a track and then that's it. There's obviously more to it than that. Can you talk about watching Michael and Jessica get into the roles and then get them ready to vocally rise to the challenge?
Yeah. One thing about producing that people don't really talk about is there's a lot of psychology in it. There's a lot of learning people, and they're two very different people. There's communication style with her and a communication style with him. Michael has an avid music background, Jessica not as much. And so it was approaching them differently and figuring out kind of what made them tick and that kind of thing. And we had the chance to do that in Nashville. They came before we started filming, and they sang 2 or 3 rounds of all the songs in a span of about 10 days. And we did that as kind of a safety for on set, in case something happened. And we were able to put their vocals in their ear so that they could kind of match that as they were singing on set. So we had a little bit of continuity. But it was. We didn't know initially how much on set we would be able to use in the final thing, and we were very pleased that we were able to use about 95% of what they sang on set, and it's because they did the work and they were willing to do 20 takes, and you know, we were able to use it, so we were really happy with that. Yeah.
Michael, Jessica, can you talk about the research that you did? I know you said, you spoke to a lot of their friends and obviously their daughter, that you said. What other types of things did you plan or did you look into to properly prepare?
Well, I got her cookbook. I started making some things because she loved to cook. And
Tell us what did you cook?
I mean, it was disgusting stuff. I can't even. I mean, I think I showed you some of the recipes. It was pretty like, wow, I can't believe everyone didn't just die when they were really young. So that was fun to kind of just play around with that. And then, of course, because I had so much time to listen to her and how she sang and her inflections, but music was so important to her. I wanted to listen to who her inspirations were. So there was a lot of listening to like Kitty Wells and Lefty and Hank Williams and the Lehman Brothers and kind of like the music history of who she would have grown up with, listening to. I found that to be really exciting and kind of like immersive. Yeah, and then the books that she wrote, the books that other people wrote, and then YouTube. My God, she's all over YouTube. Especially the two of them performing together, and we took a lot directly from things that happened to them on on stage. And so it was just constantly, Mike would come into my trailer, and I just had YouTube on all the time with their performances.
Well, the studio where we did the pre-records at, that Rachel was talking about, right behind the studio was a big cemetery, and it just so happens that it's the cemetery where George is buried and where Tammy's remains are in the mausoleum. So we would go over there and visit with them and meditate on that. And they're both very overwhelming, particularly Tammy's spot in the mausoleum. Do you want to talk about that? Well, the first time you went there, and it was all covered with all these beautiful pictures, family photos, but also things that people had drawn and left and cards that people had written to her. You were quite overwhelmed by that. And then if you've never seen George's grave, I'm sure there's probably pictures of it online. It's also pretty powerful, but it's a little disconcerting because it seems to be very much much more about his wife than him, unfortunately. But it's interesting because Billy Sherrill is buried directly across from him, and it's a little enclosure. It's fenced off. They have their own little. There's a few other folks in there, but I don't know. I found that kind of helpful, and and just being in Nashville in general, spending time at the Ryman Auditorium. We actually the last 2 days of the shoot was it 2 or 3? 2. Yeah. We shot 2 days at the Ryman Auditorium. That's where Jessica sang "Help Me Make It Through the Night," which she sang on the anniversary of Tammy's death on stage at the Ryman Auditorium. So that was pretty, and I was watching that. That was pretty spectacular and moving, and I sang a couple of songs there too.
Did you guys see episode 1? So the whole beginning, that's the Ryman Auditorium, him singing White Lightning and all that. And it's sacred ground in Nashville.
Rachel, can you talk about what was your favorite scene to watch them perform in relation to getting them prepared to sing or act those parts out?
For Michael, it was definitely He Stopped Loving Her Today, which is episode 6. Because he was adamant about Jess not seeing him sing that in the rehearsals, which I loved. And so that her reaction was real. And so when you see that scene, her reaction is real. But I felt like it made him go harder. And it was moving. And that's actually him singing in that scene. You know, all the mics worked. And so that stands out for him for sure. For her, I think it might have been Help Me Make It Through the Night as well, because just the rhyming, and I thought she did an amazing job on that number as well. And it was the last day of shooting, and it was the last number she did. It was on the day Tammy passed, so that was special. So those two probably for sure.
If I may add, because one of the fascinating challenges of doing that song, I think, is not only because it's hard enough to just be there and be singing, but she has to be in that state that Tammy's in of just barely being able to function anymore.
You feel that.
Yeah, and so it's hard enough just to sing any of the numbers, but to add on top of it that performance of the deteriorated state she was in was yeah.
Were either you like inspired to drop an album at the end of shooting?
He's done it. He's got an album. It's really good.
And he's performing right now.
It's already out. It's dropping Friday.
He's got a band called Corporal. And that's how I knew, when we were doing Take Shelter, he gave me a copy of a CD, and I put it in the jukebox in Ohio, Grafton, Ohio, the bar that we used to hang out at. So maybe it's still there in that jukebox.
If Grafton's still there.
Can you talk about the physical transformations that you two had to undergo? Because I believe, I want to make sure I'm not misspeaking, same Eyes of Tammy Faye makeup team here?
Yeah, always.
Yeah, always.
So I've been working with these ladies since 2011. I'm so lucky. I love them so much. Molly's Game, every look that I've done, Miss Sloan, is so vastly different, and they're incredibly. It's Linda Dowds and Stephanie Ingram. They are geniuses and beautiful people. So yes, I worked with them on this as well, but it was different in that Eyes of Tammy Faye was a lot of prosthetics, and this Linda painted my face. So in episode 6, there's a flashback where, Tammy deteriorates quite a bit, and she ages up a lot. I think, she died when she was 55, and she looked much older than that. And so Linda was able to paint in a way that was just really kind of sad and disturbing. And then also we work alongside each other because I lost a ton of weight for that. We shot in chronological order to kind of help with the what was happening to her.
And then you lent them to Michael? And then
I didn't gain any weight. I just wore the pad. Yeah. I didn't want to do that bacon cheeseburger thing. I don't know how the guys do that and then they get rid of the weight afterwards. It's hard enough to maintain my figure as it is. So I didn't do that. I just took a pillow and put it in there. But there were lots of wigs and sideburns and but I had a pretty swell team myself, particularly Ashley Chavez did my makeup, and she was lovely. And we were usually in the trailer for about an hour every morning. No matter what the look was, I had to look kind of different than how I normally look. Yeah.
How long were you in makeup to prepare for each day?
Well, for the older stuff, it was much longer. For both of us, though. There were times I remember because they would put a bald cap on you before they would put the hair, right?
I got a picture on my phone, actually, if anybody wants to see it.
So it was quite a long time, and we would play soothing in the beginning of the day we had all this country music, and at the end I just know to play very calm, soothing music because I just see Mike in the chair get it off and freaking out. Yeah.
My final question to you guys, and I thoroughly feel that anytime an actor, whether it's a TV show or a film, there's a piece of that character that remains with you, whether even not just in acting, but also as music producing or directing or writing, there's something of that story that remains with you. Can you talk about what is your fondest memory or something that you'll always remember after working on George and Tammy? We'll start with Rachael and work our way down.
I think for me, this certainly caused me to dive into their music, a lot. And I'd always kind of, in the country music scene, they're very well respected, but they've also been parodied and kind of, made fun of a little bit. They're kind of been seen as like not taken seriously as people. Their music is taken seriously, but and I just loved that this whole story made them human and made them real, very relatable people. And so I came out of this project really respecting them a lot more. And what was the question? Was it specific?
Just in
a specific scene? I mean,
or just anything that from the experience.
I mean, definitely all the people I met for sure. The last scene of the show, which hopefully everyone's maybe seen it by now, but they're all on a bus together, and that was a really special scene because their daughter Georgette was in the scene. It was close to end of wrapping. Me and the showrunner were like crying outside the bus while they're singing inside the bus because we're like, oh my gosh, But it was a very sweet scene. They all sing together on the bus, and it's a really good close to the show. But it was a special scene as they filmed it, and Georgette got emotional that day seeing them dressed up as her parents. She actually cried and hugged him and said, you remind me of my dad so much, and that was sweet. And so I remember that day being a very warm day, or that filming for that scene.
No, I it'd be really hard to come up with a short answer to that question, really. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's it's called George and Tammy, so the main thing I take away from it is the relationship that we created, and it's a really deep, complicated relationship. I mean, it's a tragic love story, but it's also filled with a lot of beauty. And I guess the thing I related to is trying to balance the way George was. He kept trying to figure out. It was like he was at a fork in the road all the time, and he couldn't figure out, do I go this way or do I go that way? And he never entirely felt comfortable no matter what decision he made. And he tried. It seemed like he tried. He really wanted to be a good person. Like, he just really, really wanted to be a good person. And he wanted to be a good partner for Tammy. And he just couldn't figure it out. But he remained steadfast his whole life, even after she passed. We were talking earlier today, he would write letters to radio DJs and say, someone should be looking into this. It's not right. Something's fishy here. And I know he swore up and down a stack of Bibles that Nancy was his true love and saved his life and all the rest of it. But I don't know. It's just one of the most powerful connections I've ever seen between two people.
For me, it's, definitely that. Mike and I have been friends for so long, and to even think about embarking on anything like this, I've never had, as Rachael said, I don't have a music background. I mean, I did some singing in the Eyes of Tammy Faye. It was a very different kind of singing. And, when you're singing on set, which honestly, I didn't understand that we were doing this. And it wasn't really until Mike got involved where, and he's so much about authenticity, and it needs to, we don't want this to be cheesy. It needs to be real. We need to be performing, that I realized, we're doing this live on set. And what that means is we have earwigs. It's not like we're performing for you guys, a band's playing, and then we get to sing with the band. The first take, you guys hear the music. And then after that, we have the earwigs in our ear, that plays the music, and we have a microphone and we just sing along, but you guys can't hear the music. And it's the way to get the vocal clean. And that is scary. When you're belting Stand By Your Man in front of a bunch of people and it's just a cold vocal with no sound with it, it's terrifying. I mean, oh God. Hell no. When I finished that scene, actually, I said to Rachel, I will never sing that song again. But then I was on my way home and I was singing it in the car.
I want to add to that, though, that I feel like, the theme of this show seemed to be, for me, for them, to be outside your comfort zone. And I feel like these two are where they're at because they go towards the scary stuff. They go towards the uncomfortable stuff. And yeah, I just wanted to note that because it was, hats off, because I was like, I don't know how she's doing it, but I was trying to be her cheerleader on the side.
Bourbon.
But like,
there was a lot of bourbon.
She had a specialty. Is that what we call it? Yeah, her specialty.
I called it my medicinal tea.
Medicinal tea. And it was a hot toddy, yeah, with bourbon in it. But yeah, I mean, it's 200 people in the audience, and she's just doing it a cappella. So I think, yeah, hats off to both of these guys.
I did like your approach to try to get her to sing. I appreciate that a lot. I know. We all. It's not real unless we hear it right now. So I'm going to end with this. I would like to kindly ask Michael Shannon and Jessica Chastain to not make us wait 11 more years before you work together again, please.
Hey, we might do a play next, actually. Because we did a film, we did television, and now we're like, hey, maybe we'll do a play.